This is a tutorial for Unreal Editor 2 for the original Unreal Tournament Game of the Year edition. In this video, we will cover zone portals. I've done 2 tutorials so far talking about the Add Special Brush button, and today we're going to focus on the zone portal. When you choose zone portal, you will see some pre-selected values: zone portal, invisible, and non-solid. So in some cases you will want this brush to be invisible, but in other cases you'll want it to be visible, so you would uncheck that. So we're going to show you some examples of both. In my previous tutorial I showed you the WaterZone. So here I made a little swimming pool. Note that these brushes here are solid brushes, and inside, if I go into zone view, you can see that it is a separate zone from the rest of the map. So in the whole map, this is one big zone, and then when you come down in here, it's a different color to signify that it is a different zone. And how you do that is with this brush, this one here, which I will select for you. There. It is the zone portal. It's green because it's a non-solid brush, and if I go into this view over here, you can see that I put it just underneath the edge of the pool. So if you have it's hard to see from this angle, but it's slightly lower than the edge of this pool brush here, and it also completely covers my opening. So as you can see, I've subtracted out an opening for the pool, and this green brush completely covers it. Now, in this case, the brush is not invisible, it has a texture, and that texture is from Gen Fluid. So you can see that I made it translucent, double-sided, with a little bit of a horizontal animation on it, but it is not invisible. The next one I did here is a copy of this swimming pool, except this one has lava. So if I go into this view, again you can see the brush. There it is. And this time I have a lava texture, again from Gen Fluid. And inside it's a zone info, but it's a LavaZone. And how you get that is by going into the actor browser, info, zone info, LavaZone. So you see a LavaZone there, and then the WaterZone as well. And then when you're in the LavaZone, you can also right click on that to look at the properties. And here you can see it's doing 40 damage per second. So you can adjust this value, and I'll show you how 40 translate into the actual game. I didn't really touch anything else, but you can certainly adjust values if you want to your needs. And then finally I added this. So that is an ambient sound, and the sound is a lava sound from Ambient Ancient. And how you get that is coming up to the actor browser. You go into key point, ambient sound. So this one's ready to go as well. If I go back into zone view, you can see that in here, it's a separate zone, it's a different color. So there's your LavaZone, there's your WaterZone. The next thing I'm going to show you, I go back to texture view, I built this really long tunnel. This thing is, I think, 2048 units long. It's a super long tunnel, and you come into here, it's hollow, and there you have it. This is a really, really long tunnel, which normally a player wouldn't go through. But what did I do? I created a zone portal, so let me show that to you. There it is. There's a zone portal covering this opening, and then you need to cover it on this side as well. So if I zoom in over that side, you can see that I have one as well. And again, this time it is not invisible. I have a spiderweb texture on there, which is masked. That one came from GenFX Mask Cobweb 2. So I have my zone portal, and if I go into zone view, you can see that inside it's another zone. And then I did the same thing over here. I created another long tunnel, 2048 units, put my zone portal in there, and then it's another color. Okay, so let's take a look at the zone info. So the player's going to come in here. They're going to see this cobweb, so that seems to be interesting. Maybe there's something mysterious going on inside. You come inside to the tunnel, and there's a zone info. So zone info comes from actor browser, info, zone info. And what I did is I changed, let me go into it. I changed the gravity a little bit, and I will explain why. And zone velocity, which is this one here. So as you can see, along the x-axis, I increased the velocity to 2,000. And I did 2,000 because the tunnel is 2,000 units long, so I put 2,000 in there. And I put a slight bit of gravity here. It's plus 40, which means that the player is actually going upward a little bit, not much, because when you're dealing with gravity, plus means you're going up and minus means you're coming down. We're going to get back to that later. So in this particular tunnel, I did x of 2,000, that's positive 2,000. And then I made another tunnel, which is this way, over here, but this one is going along the y-axis. So when I came in here, this info has, again, a little bit of positive gravity, which means the player moves up, floats upwards a little bit. But in this case, I changed the y to 2,000, not the x. And that's simply because this tunnel is going along the y-axis, whereas this one is going along x. So that's the only difference there. Okay, so let's take a look at this in the game. So here's the water zone that I made. That's it. Pretty straightforward water. And this is a lava zone. And remember, this does 40 damage per second. So that should have taken me 2.5 seconds to die. Now let's go over here. Remember the long tunnel that I made? There's the cobweb texture. And watch what happens. Now you can see it's quite long, right? So watch what happens when I go inside. It sped me through because it had a velocity of 2,000. Now, that velocity is only in one direction, so if I try to go back into the tunnel, I can't. So keep that in mind when you're building one of these things. Same thing here. This is a y velocity of 2,000, which means it's going to shoot me through there pretty fast. And I can't get back in. Now, we're not done yet. Let's take a rocket launcher, which I think is over here. Get some ammo. So remember, this tunnel has a velocity of 2,000. So I'm going to shoot one rocket outside the tunnel and then shoot one inside as quickly as I can. And you can see that the rocket that went through the tunnel actually arrived at the wall faster. So you got some interesting possibilities here, because if I come on this side, I'm going to try to shoot a rocket through here. So it tried to go in, got bounced, and then went back to that wall. So there's a lot of fun things you can try with that. I'm going to show you one more cool thing that you can do with the zone info. So let's say I add another zone info here. Now, because this whole map room is one big zone, any changes that I make here are going to affect the whole map. So if I go like this, right click to see the properties, come into gravity, now you can see the default. So the default is negative 950. That's the downward force that's pulling your player down towards the ground. Let's make that minus 200. So remember, this whole map is one big zone, but I made one zone here. Let me show you in texture view. I took one of my classic rooms and I put a zone portal right here. This, by the way, is invisible. You won't see it in the game. And I have now, if I go into zone view, I have another zone. So keep in mind that in this room, it's a different zone from the big one. So now let's rebuild and check that out. So in this whole room, I changed the gravity. So you get a feeling of what it's like at 200, minus 200 gravity, but this room has normal gravity. So that's how a map like DM Hyperblast is built, in that the whole outside spacey area has low grav, but when you're inside the spaceship, which is completely covered by these invisible zone portals, you can play with regular gravity. So that should give you some other ideas for cool maps to try out.